When an avoidant is preparing to end a relationship, there are often some warning signs beforehand, behaviors that they do that indicate that they have one foot out the door. And both dismissive and fearful avoidants can do these behaviors. So, how do you know if they're getting ready to dump you? Let's get into it. The first sign, and it's the most easy to notice, is that they're pulling away from you. You can feel the distance. They're not communicating as much. They're not being as affectionate or romantic. The kissy face emojis stop coming. If they used to text you good morning or good night every day, well, suddenly those stop. And then when you do see them in person, often you can feel a shift. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's really noticeable, but you can feel them pulling away from you. You can feel them emotionally disengaging from the relationship. But when you ask them if everything's okay, they tell you everything's just fine, and they'll often make some excuses like work is really busy and stressful, I'm dealing with this family situation, and they always have plausible deniability. So it leaves you wondering if you are just being sensitive and anxious, but you can feel them pulling away from you and you're not getting any communication about it. Let's get into the next one. Number two is when they start nitpicking you. They're making little put down comments, little jabs, or they're starting arguments out of nowhere, finding fault in seemingly everything that you do, and you feel like nothing's good enough for them. And this can often be confused with the devaluation stage of a narcissistic relationship. But suddenly you feel like they're finding criticisms and faults, and when you try to address it, they'll dismiss it as if they're only joking and you're being sensitive or things along those lines. Or they'll just randomly start arguments out of nowhere and make it your fault. But ultimately, you're not getting along with them the way that you used to, and you're feeling unseen and unvalued in the relationship. And they're just kind of criticizing you in ways that are not very nice and thoughtful, and sometimes even doing overt things like comparing you to an ex that they have up on a pedestal, which they are doing to create emotional distance between you and them. One of the reasons they will often do this fault-finding phase is to get you to pull the trigger first, so they don't have to be the bad guy and they can escape accountability. Also, since they are fault-finding, what they're trying to do is escape accountability in their own minds, because if they can pin their anxieties, their fears, their urge to run away, if they can pin it all on you, they get to escape accountability. And accountability is directly tied into their core wound of shame. That's why it's so hard for them to take accountability. Shame is a toxic emotion, and it's often confused with guilt. Guilt is I did something wrong, but shame is I am something wrong. And that shame comes from the consistent childhood emotional neglect that they received as a kid. They personalized it, growing up to feel defective and unlovable. So in the mind of an avoidant, if they take accountability and say, hey, I did this wrong, or I have this insecurity, or I need to work on this about myself, in their mind, it would be confirming their own defectiveness. It's very painful. So they look to project the responsibility of their behaviors and their fears onto external things such as their partner, because that way they don't have to poke at that core wound of shame. And fault finding in this is really indicative of that shame wound, because they don't want to look within and take accountability for the issues that they have. So they're trying to make it your fault. And once it's your fault, well, now they have their escape plan without accountability. All right, let's get into the third one. The third sign is canceling plans. They are now starting to become very flaky, and they're canceling plans on you. And they're now noticeably prioritizing things like work, friends, family, or even hobbies over you. Things that they didn't originally prioritize, but now they are. But again, plausible deniability comes in, because when you confront them about this, they say, well, I have to do this work event, or I've made these plans with friends, and I'm not telling you not to see your friends. And then again, the self-doubt on your end comes in, and you're wondering if it's me, am I just being anxious? Am I overthinking it? Am I being oversensitive? And they get to escape accountability again. Now, ultimately, all of these behaviors are rooted in one main thing. This is a person that fears communicating. If they have needs that aren't being met, if they have insecurities that are being triggered in the relationship, if they have things that they need to address with you, they're not doing it. It goes back to their childhood. Not only did they receive consistent childhood emotional neglect, when they had feelings that they tried to express as children, it was shot down, it was dismissed, reprimanded. They learned that expressing themselves, expressing their emotions, feelings, and needs wasn't safe. It was met with harsh rejection. So they expect the same from you. They expect you to blow your top. They expect you to dismiss them because that's what's happened their whole lives. So rather than communicating with you, they just bottle it up and they start to do these very unhealthy relationship sabotaging behaviors. But if you're seeing one or all of these behaviors from your partner and you suspect they might be an avoidant attacher, chances are the breakup is likely coming. It might be even an abrupt discard where they just drop you like a rock out of nowhere and go stone cold and show you no empathy, giving you no answers because they don't communicate. Now, when you do see these behaviors, it is an opportunity for you, however, to hold a boundary. A boundary being your limits of what you want, what you don't want, what you need, what you don't need, what you'll tolerate and what you won't tolerate. And you can simply say, hey, I've noticed this behavior. This feels very hurtful to me. This doesn't work for me. This is what I need. And that's what the secure person would do. They would hold boundaries here. And yes, holding a boundary might cause them to run away. But if they're not respecting your boundaries and they leave because you held one, they weren't going to stay anyway. And at least now you're standing up for yourself and saying, no, this doesn't work for me. But if you're walking on eggshells, tiptoeing, neglecting your own feelings and needs, you're only creating more anxiety in yourself, you're abandoning yourself, and you're sending yourself the message that your feelings don't matter and that you need to try to convince this person to love you and stay with you, which is a very insecure message to send yourself. So don't self-sacrifice your own needs and feelings. Be kind, but be authentic and let this person know what your limits are. Now, the best case scenario is that they respect your boundaries, but that wasn't going to happen if you never expressed them. So do the secure thing, express your needs, your limits, let them know what works for you. And if they're not willing to respect your needs and feelings and boundaries, it'll hurt to lose the relationship, but now you'll be free to find a partner that is emotionally available for you, that does care about your limits, your needs, your feelings, your experience, and perspective. Don't sell yourself short. You deserve somebody who does care about how they show up for you.